No, I can see you. Well,
Can you?
your webcam is it's quite black. I'm not quite sure if.
Oh, I know. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. What a silly sausage.
Ah, there we are.
Okay, so you can see me
Yep.
and you can hear me on the phone. Can you hear me on the computer?
Yes, I can hear you on the computer too.
Hang on, let me get that off. Let me do full screen. Okay, so you can see me
Hmm.
and you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can't see you.
Yeah. Sorry,
There's
my
just
webcam
a.
is broken. So.
Okay, no, I can't hear you on my screen. So is it okay for you to talk over the phone?
Yeah, we can just talk over the phone.
Okay, so
If
you can see me,
yeah.
you can hear me
Hmm.
on your screen. I just can't hear you on the screen,
Yeah.
even though. Okie doke. So off we go.
Yeah. Okay. Um. One sec. Do you just want to mute yourselves? Because I'm hearing double of you basically. So.
Sorry, you're doing what?
I'm hearing like two of you. Like I'm hearing one of you through Zoom and one of you through the phone. So.
Oh,
So if you
is
just want to
that.
mute yourself on Zoom, then it'll be okay because
Sorry if I just.
mute yourself on Zoom, because then
I mute.
yeah.
Is that
Okay.
it?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okie doke.
Okay. So we got that over with. So how you doing, Charmaine?
I'm fine. I'd love to see you, but I'll just look at the G.
Ah, I'm sorry, I can't. I wish I could, but these things always happen, I suppose. Tech in it. So
Oh, it's not because you need to do it for security.
no, it's my webcam is broken. So
Oh, bless you.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, I don't want to say thank God for that, but then
Ah.
still, I'm not totally. Okay, right.
so so how you been doing recently?
I've been very well. Um, although I did have a jab, and I didn't know whether or not it was the effect of the jab or what it was, but initially I was frozen, absolutely frozen. My whole body was frozen. My fingers were all tingly, and apparently that's hypothermia, and I had aches throughout my body, under my feet, on top of my feet, my legs.
Oh.
Um, and then after a couple of weeks it went, so I haven't got anything now. Have you had a jab?
No, I haven't had mine yet. Still waiting on that. But so yeah, this is the COVID vaccine, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So which one did you get?
Well, I had the Seneca one. I wasn't very happy about that. I really didn't want to take it. I
Hmm.
wanted the Pfizer, and I was advised to get the Pfizer. For one thing, I didn't like the idea that even though it was in the experimental stage, I didn't like the idea of cells being used from fetuses. That was my first thing.
Cells from fetuses.
Yes, the Oxford Zeneca one, in the initial trials, they used cells, no, not tissues. They used tissues from unborn fetuses,
Oh, I did not know that.
aborted fetuses.
Yikes.
And I wasn't, because I'm a Christian,
Hmm.
even if I wasn't, I don't think I would have been happy about that. Um, and then the other thing that I worried about was the clotting, and all of the reports that were coming from Europe. And, I admire those in them halting the use of it until they had more results. But when I tried to get the Pfizer one, they said that they had run out and that they were only giving it to those who'd had it initially and then giving it for the second jab. And the only one in this area was the Zeneca one, so I've had to have the Zeneca one.
Ah, so you're a bit of a the COVID vaccine, a bit of a skeptic towards it then, I guess.
I do have my reservations.
Hmm.
I mean, I've gone ahead with it, but I wasn't happy doing it.
Hmm.
Because I didn't, I was very careful, and I did have a COVID test actually, because a friend of mine tested positive,
Hmm.
and he was in hospital for 2 weeks, so I thought, oh dear, I better get tested, for his safety, because he was an elderly gentleman, and in visiting, so that I could visit for his safety, and I was squeaky clean, so I was clear. I don't like the idea that they're pushing towards. It's very subtle and it's very gradual, but I don't like the idea of the fact that we may need to have vaccine passports in order to get into any public building.
Yeah, it is a bit controlling, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is the whole thing. It will appear good. It appears good, doesn't it? It appears for the public good. But the downside is that it can be a means of control, especially when you have, don't know who, someone else. First of all, Tony Blair, of all people, ages ago, even before the hint of the idea of vaccine passports, he was openly saying that everyone should have a digital vaccine passport, and I'm sorry, that numbers control 19 freakish.
Tony Blair,
Yes,
the
he
him,
did it.
he doesn't seem particularly authoritarian, so that's a bit odd to me, I suppose.
No, but he is. He's European Union, and he is very much a person he's one of the people who want a one world government. There are a lot of politicians that want pro one world order eventually. And so the nuts and bolts of that, how are you going to do it? You've got to, if you want a one world government, and a lot of them, that's no secret. There's no secret in that. They openly declare themselves as that. And so that, what are going to be the nuts and bolts of that? You've got to control people economically. You've got to control them in as many ways as possible. In fact, even Boris recently said, "Oh Lord, I saw it on a news thing on my site that there are. I don't know whether they've already had the meeting, and this wasn't hush hush, but a few of them have already said that it would help in controlling the pandemic if as many governments as possible had a united health plan, a united approach in dealing with the pandemic, and had either set up to have a meeting, or were going to have a meeting, and it listed the governments that agreed with that we're going to have a meeting to try and find a unified health plan scheme of attack for COVID.
So you don't think unifying the countries and and like with healthcare and such is not a very good idea then?
It can appear in itself a good idea.
Mm.
It's what it potentially, that information, the nuts and bolts of what would be needed in order to set that up, of what it could be misused for. You set up an instrument that makes it easy for someone to put the pawns into place to eventually facilitate a one world government, a one world power, etc., then eventually, in the long term, it's not going to be a good thing. But the short term is, it appears a good thing. And so it's like a smoke screen. So that's why I have my reservations, because I know what the long term plan is.
That is, yeah, that's fair, I suppose, and it's a decent thing to be worried about. Yeah, it's yikes. I don't really know what to say about that. Uh,
It's just to be aware of it, just to be aware of it, and to play one's part of halting the progress towards it in one's lifetime as much as possible. That's why I voted against the European Union. I voted for Brexit, so that we had control politically over our own affairs. Because I suppose unfortunately, the hype was to put emotional issues. Of course, we love I love all cultures. I enjoy all the different cultures, and it was wrong. They highlighted those aspects and the economic aspects, which have proved to be wrong, because their economy obviously depended on ours, where ours was stronger and theirs is in great difficulty. But they didn't highlight the main political aspect. This Britain has a democracy that goes back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And we would have lost the whole of our democratic system, parliamentary system, by joining the economic union, the European Union, because the head of the European Union is an unelected person. He's not elected.
really? I thought he was elected.
No, he is not elected. He is appointed. Now, we elect representatives to be in the European Parliament, whatever. But if the top board is not elected and appointed, having little bodies down there who are elected is meaningless.
Yeah, that's true. It's like a
And that is a fact. The head of the European Union is appointed. He is not elected.
appointed by who then? So
That I don't know. But you can easily find that out.
okay, interesting, I suppose. So speaking of all this sort of control stuff, I've heard you mention something previously about the is it the Freemasons?
Hmm.
So can you explain what that is exactly?
Right. The Freemasonry,
Mm-hmm.
I've got some notes to prompt me and stuff that I forget. The Freemasonry is made up of 33 orders, and within those 33 orders, there are 140 O's. There are different O's made at different stages, and they are sworn to secrecy, and there are horrendous oaths and consequences that they willingly take on board, except they don't know them until they get to the next level.
Hmm.
They are bound to keep and protect their members. Now, if that membership, and it is, there are many politicians, and I can read off prime ministers and presidents who were and are members of the Freemasonry. If you carry that over into politics, where it exists,
Mm-hmm.
and into the legal system, where it exists, most of the High Court judges in this land are members of Freemasonry, and most of the police are. It means that if there is a wrong deed done by any of their members, they are bound to cover it up. They are bound to keep it secret. The only two things that are an exemption are murder and treason. But even at the very, very top, around the final O's, at the very top of the 33rd order, even murder, I don't know about treason, but even murder can be covered. So you put that secrecy that they're bound to, not, that's not a fairy tale, and you put that in the hands of a judge. Does that explain to you why there are some cases where what to the public seems blatantly wrong judgments and consequences happen of rogues, criminals, etc., getting off or getting off lightly?
Hmm.
Now, they have assigned, I don't know exactly what it is, but one of them used to be a slight movement of scratching the ear. Okay, you've got a court case and you have a judge, and before you've got the lawyer who's the prosecutor and the lawyer who is the defense. Now, if the judge does the slight thing to his ear, and either the prosecutor lawyer or the defense lawyer responds and does the same thing, it's very, very subtle, then from that moment the judge knows that that person is a Freemason, and he is bound by the oath that he has taken to make sure that that person wins. So whether or not it's a criminal or a murderer in the defense case or in the prosecutor's case, that person is bound to make sure that person is favoured. Now, if he scratches, he gives the sign that he's meant to give, assuming he is a Freemason. Not all of them are, so not all judges are going to be scratching their ear or doing the sign. Okay, but if he is,
Mm-hmm.
It could be that neither of the lawyers in front of him are, and so he doesn't get a response, and so it's open play. But there are occasions where that happens. Now, how do I know all of this? A lot of it I came across accidentally without going into too much detail. Through Freedom Ministries.
What, sorry?
A Freedom Ministry, right, is they deal with people who have been Freemasons or in their family have been Freemasons going back generations, because there are curses that can come upon people for up to 7 generations afterwards. Okay?
Curses.
And so that's how I know about the O's, because I had to go through being delivered from 140 O's. But there are some people who have come out of Freemasonry, and I haven't got my sources here, but if you contacted Freedom Ministries, they're based in Bournemouth, they would give you the name of the author of a particular, people who had been in the Freemasons, who came out of it, and who wrote books detailing all of this stuff, and in some cases their life was in jeopardy by doing so. So that's how we know anything about what oaths, etc., the wording of the oaths at higher level, at any level.
Right.
And so that you can see, for example, wait a minute, because I can't remember all this stuff, but I made these notes, the documentary, which I haven't seen, by the way. These are the people who have been politicians, and also bear in mind that here we go. George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Theodore Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Gerald Ford, Winston Churchill, Prince Philip, our deceased, Edward VII, the Duke of Kent, and this isn't a secret, these names, members of the Freemasons, you can get hold of, so this isn't all fairy tale stuff. The Duke of Kent is the Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England. So the Duke of Kent is the top bod of all the Freemasons in England. George the Fourth and George the Sixth are some who were members of Freemasons. And of course, Rothschild, who is the main financial person, banker, who controls and funds all of the banks. And there's more stuff on them, but he also is a Freemason.
Right, so it's a lot more international than I thought. I wasn't sure if it was just a thing in England or...
Oh my God, no. No, in fact, if you look, you get a copy of an American dollar, and on that you'll see, and this is where it goes to George Washington, which is a bit creepy, see that on the American dollar there is, on one side there is a triangle, there is an eye in the center of it, which goes back to ancient Egypt, pagan, and that is one of the symbols in any Freemason lodge that you would go into. The Freemason signature, if you like, is on the American dollar.
Ah, I wasn't sure. I thought that was the Illuminati. That's it.
No, the Illuminati is a subdivision of the Masonic Lodge, and they do use some of the symbols that the Freemasons use. But that came from the Freemasons.
Right. I didn't.
Because George Washington was a member, and I think he was the one who created the dollar, and it's been kept ever since.
Right. So I suppose that gives a whole new level of secrecy. They're hiding this symbol of this theory or this like secret society behind another secret society that everyone already knows about. That's quite interesting. So on the dollar it says Anut
Sorry, go
Septis.
ahead.
On the dollar it says Anut Septis Novus Ordo Secretorium. So is that Latin? Do you know what that means, or is that just unrelated?
I don't know what it means, but I know it is related.
Ah, right. Okay, that's actually the name of the symbol. I just think I was saying it wrong. Sorry. Yeah. So how did you come to find out about all this? Get actually start believing in it, because
Well, the details of who belongs to it and some of the historical stuff, I did research, but it all started because my great-grandfather was in Australia, was a very, very high up, probably had taken, about nearly the 33rd order, because he was something like a Grand Master. And on one side, and this is really hard. Are you a Christian by any?
no, I'm not.
No.
No.
So some of I can appreciate it may be a bit difficult to understand.
I was previously, but
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So it all in my family through the generations.
Mm-hmm.
There had been lots of horrible things happening: freak accidents, broken relationships, addiction, poverty,
Mm-hmm.
for ridiculous reasons, and I heard the chap who was the head of Freedom Ministries. I had the radio on one day, on Christian radio, Premier Radio, and when he went through some of the curses and effects that can be carried on for generations, I thought, my goodness, because I saw that in my family, the terrible rejection. For instance, my mother's father's father, so my great-grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
was the one who was like a grandmaster. and they were all Freemasons, and they were extremely wealthy. And then he became an alcoholic, and so by the time my grandfather was the last one, and so by the time he came along, there was nothing left. They also rejected him when he married a Catholic and didn't speak to him, abandoned him. There was only one member of the family that would speak to him, and it had to be in a public park, which my mother remembers. And so she was basically rejected in the womb. She was rejected, and my grandmother rejected, and my grandfather rejected to the day they died. My grandfather, that one who was the son of my great grandfather, the Freemason, had a freakish death when he was about in his 40s. Just died of a broken heart. There was no medical reason. My grandmother was, and this was all during the Depression, so she was left without any help, and my mother was an only child, and so she was fatherless at 14. My father was killed in a freakish car accident in his 40s. My mother was left a widow, and I too lost my father at the age of 14.
Oof.
My father's family after he died, he was a baby of 10. After he died, they just abandoned us. And so freakish accidents, rejection, abandonment, addiction, they just abandoned us. He should have, so there are Freemasons on his side as well, but they weren't as high up as on my mother's side. He grew up on a big property in Australia, and he was supposed to get a third of that, and he would have been very, very wealthy farmer. When he came back from the war, he found that his brother, and I've got the document to prove it, of where my grandfather handed over his third to him, he found that the older son had forced his father, my grandfather, to hand over my father's share to him.
Oh, right.
So he came back from the war to find that he had lost his share in the property, and he struggled with money to the day he died.
So your family's really had a bad time for the past 100 years, I suppose, almost.
Yeah. And so when I heard this, all of a sudden, the patterns, when I looked at it, the abandonment, the rejection, and it was all right when my daddy was alive, but when he died, they completely abandoned us. And they never liked my mother, because even though they were Catholics, they all went astray and did whatever. And the woman was just a wonderful, godly woman. It didn't throw it down anyone or anything, but just by her very life, she more or less condemned what they weren't. And so they were really cruel to her when Daddy died and wasn't around. My two uncles, I can remember from the day he died, and even at the graveside to this day, have never even said one word to me. And I was a little girl. I hadn't.
Oh.
They were all. So all of that stuff. And my brother had a freak accident as well. He almost lost a leg. I'd seen in my niece, in one of his daughters, became a drug abuser for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard all of this and all the struggles, I thought, right, I am willing to find out about this, and it's going to stop here. I just wanted it to stop because it causes, one of the curses is, yes, isolation and depression. And I saw that in my mother, in other members, my grandmother and other members of the family. And I thought, right, I want it to stop here with me. And so I went, and then when I saw, we had a booklet of all the different curses, and each one comes from an oath that that particular Freemason would have sworn at that order level. Do you understand?
Yes.
Like in the first order, there would be an oath that they take.
Yes.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
At the second order, there's another oath.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those oaths, the repercussions can be on them and their family going for 7 generations, and that's written in the Old Testament about that, bring different curses. And so to be released from it, because it's a spiritual thing, and so to be released from it, you have to rebuke the oath and be prayed over. And honestly, there were things that happened, like what they call manifestations, and I had no idea about it, so there's no way I could have manufactured it. And right up to the last oath of the 140 oaths, I was still manifesting results of what those curses had sent down. And if it hadn't, and so, if my great-grandfather had not been at such a high level, he wouldn't have had to take right up to the 140th oath. Therefore, I would not have been manifesting when that was rebuked.
So you've sort of like countered these.
Yes. Yes.
So you're sort of countering these. So you don't really have to worry about your future so much, do you? About as
No,
okay.
I don't. But there are some times where, if something happens, there are some times where I go back and just reclaim that prayer, that deliverance.
Well, did you ever notice like your parents being on edge? Because surely they were aware that something bad would be happening to them, because did they not know?
Know about this. Good Lord, no. I mean, I didn't discover this until 2002.
Oh.
And that's when things changed in my life, actually.
Right. That really clears up a lot. I had no previous knowledge about all of this, so that's really I lent my booklet because it was over 3 days. It was over
a long weekend that I went through because there was so much that had to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the booklet that has the information. It has each of the orders. It has the oath that was taken, and it has what are some of the consequences that can come as a result of that. And I lent it to my friend because I was looking around for it here before you called, but I can easily find it and give you the address, etc. And you can contact the minister at Freedom Ministries, and he may very well send you the booklet. It's a whole set of live recording of a set of cassettes that was made during the whole 3 days as well, and I've got that, but I lent it to a friend who didn't have as many high orders, but did have some Freemasonry in his family. So I couldn't put my hands on it, but I can find out for you so that you can read it for yourself.
That would be awesome. That'd be great. Well, I don't. This is a bit of a grim topic and quite sad. So I kind of want to lift off the mood a bit better. So I know that you've been doing some acting as well. So sorry to completely.
Well, I'm a trained actress.
You're a trained actor?
I trained at Drama Studio 1988 to 89 and worked professionally for 7 years. Then was drawn into the teaching of drama, and then the last few years I've come back to do some more theatre and a little bit of film work.
Oh, wow. So what was the most recent thing that you worked on, or can you not say?
Actually, it was the film of the documentary of the KFC. Initially, they started out with conspiracies, but I think there was a bit of a worry about using that word, so they changed it to mysteries, I believe.
Right.
Because you've seen it, have you?
Yeah, I've seen the episode. Though it wasn't quite as in much detail as you've explained to me today. It was like very brief.
They set it up. They set it up in such a way that they didn't want me to, like all the other factual stuff came out, but my personal journey spiritually and the Christian side of it, they didn't want that highlighted. So that's why that didn't come out.
Yeah, I did notice there was very little in there. It was like a brief, you described what they were, and then and that's pretty much all that was to do with it. So I was a bit intrigued to do with going a bit further into it, but yeah.
So do you direct? What is your? How do you function?
How do I function? I just hobbyist interviewer, I suppose. Bit of a hobby, just that's all.
Right.
Yeah, I've dabbled in filmmaking, but I've never done anything particularly good.
Well, I'm sure one day you will.
So what was like the most what's something that you're most proud of to do with acting then, I suppose?
Two things that I might know, about 3 things that my best work that I've been really, really happy with was when I played Portia. In '94, I had a rep season of Shakespeare Venice, and that was good work. That was effective work. And Queen Gertrude in Hamlet, but Portia was connected. It was effective work. A piece of Pinter in 2005, a kind of Alaska. That was effective work. And 2019 in the Madam Margaret Theatre in Norwich, I did a solo play, monologue play of Beckett, Samuel Beckett, of Rockabye, and that was it was brilliant work. The process was brilliant because it was, I don't like the word challenging, but it really stretched. It was a great, fantastic journey. I can say journey is the best word.
Yeah, I looked through your CV and I saw these things, but I tried looking for recordings and such, but I couldn't really find any. But
No, well, the thing was, the director was going to give me a recording of part of it so that I could use it as an audio reel, and he still hasn't done it. And then we went into lockdown, and I've asked and asked, but he promised to do that. And the films that I've done, Last Man Up, is a tiny bit there, but the other films, again, they were supposed to give me reels of the films, and they didn't.
is
And
the film
I haven't got means of contacting.
is it not done
So
yet?
It's really annoying,
Is the film not done yet? Because then, or is it just like a private film? Because can you not like access it through the internet?
I didn't think of that. The one on the independent film on Radio 4, that was a tricky one, because there was a legal hitch-up, because one of the people in it was quite famous, and he at the time was under contract to Channel 4, and so they would not allow, even though it was meant to be released as a public film on Radio 4, because one of the chaps in it, do you remember this show, something the Buzzcocks? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Right, well anyway, he was quite famous, and he was under contract to Channel 4, and he was still under contract to Channel 4 while the film was being made, even though he had a tiny part in it. And because of that, it meant that there was a legal hitch-up, that legally they couldn't actually publicly make the film available. Whether it was subsequently, I don't know, but it was supposed to be released on Channel 4.
So I guess they'll never see the light of day, or
No.
oh, that's a shame.
Well, it's on the reel with the director, but whether or not, I don't know where he is now. And they, I had promises that they would send me the reel tape, and they haven't, or he hasn't.
That's
So
a great shame.
I mean, that was the time when I didn't realize that what we're into now is that that one needs these. Before the CV was it. One didn't need the live reel, but with all the digital stuff, it's become more important. But so I don't know the solution to that. I mean, I did a student film, and there was some nice work in that, and that was done through a major film school in London, and I did that in, I think I did that in 2019 as well. And they're very naughty because my doing it was based on the fact that they would provide me with the film reel, and they still haven't. And I pursued both the director and the producer, and they still have not provided that.
That's a great shame. To lose something that you spent months,
Exactly.
a year on.
And it's morally wrong because the condition of doing it was that I would be given the reel,
Well, it's people like that. It's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've chased it so many times. Actually, you've prompted me. My next bet, if I can get to speak to anyone, is to actually ring the film school itself in London and make a complaint, but I tried so many times because it was done through, the audition was through Mandy, and so there is a responsibility, that it's kosher, and I would not have, I offered my services to a student film. I was paid expenses, but basically did it for free, because I would be given a reel. So I just thought, well, this will be good, even a little snip of this, so that I had something for a show reel, and they haven't done that. So that's really breaking a contract.
So you got nothing out of it?
No.
Oh, man.
Well, nothing visual, and I felt really, it was a nice lot of internal work on it. And the filming experience was fantastic.
You said it was a student film. What sort of level was it like?
A graduate one.
Ah, right.
Final one was their final graduate piece. And I mean the equipment and the staff that they had there, and it was done in a fantastic situ of a wonderful flat that was rented out. I mean, we're talking Chelsea, Kensington, Hyde Park style. And the equipment must have cost a fortune.
Ooh.
And the director, there were directors there, film directors.
So quite high budget for a student film.
Yes. It was the director's final piece, but the person, and there were, but the overseer of the filming was a professional film director.
So the real deal, I suppose.
Well, yes. Yes.
Well, Sharmaine, this has been a pleasure. So, it's been fascinating. Have anything else you want to say at the end?
Well, when I get my hands on the name and the whatnot, I'll email it to you. I think, yes, because I've got your email address.
Yeah.
But do you don't do any direction? Do you have any? Do you do direction?
No, I don't.
Direct?
I don't direct. No.
Right. What about Frank?
Frank. That uh, is friend's email. We just sort of work together on this stuff.
So what do? You're doing research, are you?
Yeah, we're just researching some stuff.
Okay.
Well, thank you for coming. This has been great.
Thank you. You're welcome.
See ya.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.